years now?
More than that.
More than that? It just seems like it's just. I'm trying to clear my brain so that I can make some sense. How many people saw the Star Trek movie? Is there any one thing that you objected to? Yeah.
Is crab critical? No Star Trek vision! Chekov was not as cute as the original.
For anyone who didn't hear that, the biggest complaint we have about the most recent Star Trek movie was that Chekov was not as cute as the original.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Or the one.
The reason why I ask is because I heard from. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
The reason why I ask is because I heard from several people, much to my surprise, that the one moment they felt was intolerable was when Spock yells out. So I guess the reason is that it didn't feel organic in the scene. It felt manufactured. It felt like this and on.
Yeah.
I sensed that when I saw it, but it didn't really bother me. I thought the movie was really terrific. And I thought the ending was, near the end, was really very touching. It knocks me out because when I'm around the conventions, and I've been comparing the first Star Trek movie to our film, or the best of our films, and I bring up the Wrath of Khan, I'd say, we had those moments of extraordinary emotion and compassion, like when Spock is dying and Kirk is on the other side of the wall. And that's we took our one thing. That's incredible. Okay, anybody have any questions?
If we could actually have people start lining up over here for questions, that would be absolutely great. I've got one to start out with. If you don't mind. I understand you're working on a new graphic novel called Things to Come. Could you tell us a little bit about what things may come of this graphic novel?
It's really, I purloined a title from H.G. Wells that was Things to Come. Something, Things to Come. So that's, I don't think of it though as stealing, I think of it as paying homage. The book is out. It's been published by a company called Blue Water. It's an interesting story. It's about vampires and human beings, the last humans on Earth, the first vampires, and how they overlap and how they come to be here, and the evolution from human to vampire. And the vampires are considerably different from, I think, anything that you read, because they're very questionable. They want to know why they're here. And is this a curse? Because the human race has pretty much annihilated itself. Or are they supposed to rebuild? What does the future hold for them? So they're a very introspective group. And that's what I chose to make the story about. And it's out, as I say, it's called Things to Come. And I know you can get it on Amazon, but I think it's available in some comic book stores, and maybe Burns and
Barnes Noble?
yeah, Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Noble. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and before we get started with the questions, if I could just ask people, if you've got cameras, that's fine, but if the flashes could please be turned off in some way. It's getting a little bit much up here. And also, do be aware that Mr. Koenig will be available for photo ops later. With that,
Don't come by and listen to
let's take the first question.
Okay, so my question is, I thought I had read in one of the Star Trek magazine interviews with you that when you first started filming the show, they were so interested in having you look like Davy Jones that they made you grow your hair out. Is that true? And also, did you have to wear a wig or anything in the first few episodes?
Yes, I did. I wore a wig in the first 6 episodes. I could have still gotten away with my own hair at that point. But they didn't want that, long Davy Jones look. And that's the group of fans I felt they hadn't targeted as of yet. And so that's why they brought me in. I finally met Davy. Very nice chap, just a couple of years ago. And I can say this. I'm considerably taller than he is. But he is better endowed.
Hello, thanks for being here. My question is, I was wondering how you felt about the portrayal of the new Chekov and about the actor who plays him. Can you tell us your thoughts on, do you think that Abrams' team has done a good job with the new Chekov?
Well, I think Anton Yeltsin is a very talented young man. He's done the title role on 2 or 3 movies. He doesn't need Star Trek. He's going to be able to move on and move up, on the basis of his talent, without any other generating force. I was very curious when I went to see it. I didn't know how I was going to react. I know that on occasion I had the capacity and capability of acting in a very mean and envious manner, and I didn't know if that would grab hold of me or what. And as soon as I sat down, I said, wait a second, this kid is 50 years younger than I am. I'm not competing with him. I had to tell myself that though, because I'm a little nutsy that way. And so I was able to sit back and just enjoy the work. And he was very good. I thought he was very talented and funny, and a terrific addition to the cast. We met, I had already met him once before. We met on the soundstage, and we talked for, I'd say at least an hour and a half. And it was delightful. So I was there, my wife and I went to the party afterwards. It was in a big parking lot. This is the first movie. And he's surrounded by people. And I'm walking in the periphery, and he jumps up and says, Walter, I've got my own action figure.
This is a very specific question about classic Trek, so if the details are lost to time, I completely understand. But in The Deadly Years, Chekov has a line, skin sample, Chekov, marrow sample, blood sample, tissue sample. One day, they will run out of samples.
That's why you came up here, so you can say that line.
And this one, in the James Blish adaptation, which I assumed was based on the script, the joke is different. After all the samples, he says, they take so many samples, I'm not even sure I'm here. Which actually I like better. And I was wondering which you liked better, and if you could shed any light on how it got changed.
I'm embarrassed to tell you that I didn't catch that. I did not catch that in the second film. Boy, that's really dumb of me. Something I should have been looking for. Which do I like better? Well, I'm an actor. I'm an actor. Mind me.
On a weekend like this, comparisons between Star Trek and Babylon 5 are probably inevitable, right? What I want to know from you is how do you compare the two shows, both from an actor's perspective and from a fan's perspective?
second part is, I think, self-evident because we know how Star Trek has grown and developed over these last 40 years. And Babylon 5, I don't think is going to get any further than it is now in terms of popularity. And that, is, of course, isn't their fault alone. I mean, they did have another series ready to go, which would have enhanced the whole movement of Babylon 5, advance it before that got started. It's easier for me to add to the first part. Now, I preface it by saying I'm enormously grateful to Star Trek. Without Star Trek, this wouldn't be happening. Without Star Trek, I probably wouldn't be an actor today. It's too tough a business. You gotta have something wrong with it, unless you're an extraordinary talent, and you can carry that for decades. So I'm very, very pleased that I've had this opportunity, and proud because Star Trek very often had some really neat things to say, and things that I agree with. But Babylon 5 is a chance to be back. How many people raised me and said, aye, sir, aye, sir. Yeah. And that goes on too. Well, that's. So every time Bester came on the show, he had something to do. He was a character that was involved in the plot. He wasn't a literal character. He was important to how the story would go on. So that was terrific. I love that. I love the important of the story. And I don't know if you remember an interview very early on. Bill Shatner was introducing all of us to the press. And it's caught for eternity on tape, you know. And this is a crude facsimile of how we do it. I can't. Oh, I she says, welcome press. We're very pleased to have you here. And I'd like to introduce you to the cast. Here is Michelle Nichols, who plays Aurora. And over here is Jimmy Doohan, who plays Scotty. And over here is George Takei, who plays Sulu. And over here, the actor who plays Chekov. So there was a sense of anonymity. One playing the role, and it spreads in some way and becomes an accepted fact of life. So when they wrote for us, and for me, they wrote, how do I put this? They wrote it as economically as they could. As a matter of fact, the thing that bothered me in this movie, this In the Darkness film, was that Anton had not a lot to do. And it really kind of pissed me off. It's vicariously for me. And when he did speak, he was yelling. It was hard to understand what he was saying. So I'm already on another campaign to make sure that Chekov gets his due in the next one.
If you had to go and revision Star Trek in your image, what would that reimagining be? True.
How would you re-envision Star Trek if you were in charge of that?
If I was in charge of it? You're pretty deadly record. Well, show, and I was content to do what they gave me to do until they stopped going forward with it. We got scripts where each of the supporting characters was, if not prominently displayed, was certainly a force in the story. And then they come on the stage, and they start crossing things out. And if they didn't cross them out, Bill would make sure that when they were shot, that they could focus if the attention was otherwise. So all I learned in that situation is to get a chance to do everything that they had written. They hadn't written that much, but at least to do that. I mean, as I say, I was incredibly grateful to be involved with it. But at the same time, I was frustrated enough to consider leaving after the second season. I was bored. You know, the yellow buttons for afraid, the red buttons for anger, the green buttons for depressed. And those buttons didn't even move, you know. In fact, I left for a month in the second season to do a play. I did a play outside of Chicago. I had a great time. Played Jackie Coogan. I don't know how many times. But it was great fun, and I had a really splendid time. And I learned a lot that I was able to use working with it. But I missed 3 episodes. But as I say, I thought the trade-off was really fair. Because I got a hell of a lot more to do.
So Chekov, Vester. So a couple of questions. First, was there another character that you played, or what was your inspiration to come up with that evil character, Vester, with a heart of coal? And what did you do? I mean, I heard Peter Jurassic say one time that he said, you know, to get into character, he would say, "My dear Mr. Getable." Was there anything special that you did to get into character to play Vester?
Well, I use that same line. No, I'm naturally a critic, and it was now, you know, each part comes with its own. You tap into something in you, hopefully, and it's. The more different the characters you play, the more you search or you look for other aspects of your personality that equip you to play that role. My belief is that you never pretend. You're up there having full support for that character you're playing. When I played Vester, I didn't editorialize. I didn't say he was a bad guy. I said, well, Vester is looking out for his people. You know, he has tremendous loyalty. And I found the positives to make me like him. Because if I didn't like him, the audience wasn't going to, you know, respond. And I know they didn't respond positively all the time. It wasn't about it. So I needed to do that to get the truth of the character. You know, I played on stage, I played God as a Puerto Rican towel attendant in a steam bag. Different character. I played a CIA agent who was literally falling apart on the battlefield in another show. And when I say literally, I mean everything was falling off. Hey, look what I have here. You can imagine what I have here. Yeah, so did I answer it at all? No.
There's a little Vester in Walter?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm just thrilled to be here, Mr.
God, you don't look.
I mean, Mr. Koenig, I have a question and a request. Yeah, we'll find Number one, are you jealous that Howard Stern gave Sulu his own dance and you don't have one?
He gave him his own dance?
Sulu dance.
On the radio?
Yeah. I can sing a few bars.
How does that work?
It's to the tune of the Safety Dance by Men Without Hats. It came out about 30 years ago. You can dance if you want to, blah, blah. And go on YouTube. You can YouTube it. You know,
Oh, it's on YouTube.
yeah.
Okay.
And
No.
well, you just let all the air out of my sails with that one. But I got a request. I could die a happy man if you'll say my favorite line from Star Trek.
Can you tell me better the nuclear weapon?
I've always been a fan of they put things in our ears myself.
Good morning. You touched on it a little bit, the fact that Chekov didn't get to do a lot other than push buttons that didn't work. But I know George Takei pushed to make Sulu eventually a captain of his own ship, and I know he's been working on that since I think Star Trek II. And Chekov was first officer of another ship in Trek II. I found it curious that he never sort of tried to move up the hierarchy again. Did you push for Chekov to get more to do in the films? Or
No. What I did was that occasionally I'd stop in at James' office and say, "How about this line?" You know. I remember doing that in which was the one? Was it the first movie that where I got my ear not my ear, something got burned, right? My arm got burned. Yeah, I offered a couple of lines, which he used. You know, George has some extraordinary characteristics, personality. He got the short end a lot of the time, up until he became captain. In one case, he had a very nice scene in the Warriors' home, and they had a very mean little kid who was supposed to act opposite him. And no, I don't want it. So all day, they were trying to get this kid to coax him to do the scene, which was a really nice scene, which as a matter of fact, was my invention. And the scene was that he meets this kid and finds out that he's the great grandson of this boy. Yeah. That's what I mean, right? Yeah. And he took it very stoically. You know, he didn't get to do it, took it stoically. In Star Trek 3, I think, he was supposed to be promoted, and for reasons not controllable, they didn't do it. They didn't do it. They had a scene in the shuttlecraft where he gets promoted. It was cut out. So he went through some stuff, you know, and he missed the first 10 episodes of the second year of the series because he was doing Green Berets. I'm sure he would have rather been working with Bill Shatner and John Wayne. So I really admire the fortitude and the character. I would have been weeping and complaining and keeping my dress. I'm not kidding, but so I was pleased for him when it finally happened. We finally took note of the fact that he was there and that he was a deserving actor and gave him something to do. I thought that was only appropriate. No, and the other thing is, you know, you can be the captain, you can be the admiral, and it can be a part not as good as the guy who is an ensign and sitting in the lockup. You know, I could be in the lockup with the brig with a soliloquy. You know, and that would make it for me. And I wouldn't need anything else for that. You know. Oh, this time in my life when things are going so bad. So it was. No, I never equated rank with the value of the role.
I'm going to ask
Welcome back to Phoenix. Do you know if there's ever going to be a re-release of Moontrack? It's here with Campbell, come on.
Yeah, well, yeah. You think that with Bruce Campbell's name, how popular it is because that somebody would do that. There was a lot of political stuff going on with that. The people who made Moontrack, by the way, my wife here was in it. Some peculiar reason, the people who made Moontrack had the rights to the second not release, the second, say it from them.
Installment?
What?
Season installment.
Yeah, okay, that's a good one. The second installment, not the first. The company that released it had the rights to the first one. And they got scared and decided they didn't want to do it. They didn't think it would make enough money for them. But there can't be a third one without a second one.
Yeah.
So they never got back the rights to do another Moontrack. And they had one on the boards. They had the story. And it was pretty good. But that's one of the peculiarities of this business. Things happen. Some things happen in order and logically, but more often than not, people's lives and their careers and everything else seem to be capriciously plotted. You know, things that should have happened don't, and things that shouldn't have happened do. You know, and you have to go with it. That's why I tell actors, you know, people who want to be actors, I say you gotta be ready for disillusionment and disappointment and, you know, and demoralization. The 3 big D's, because there's no real logic to how things go. But particularly for actors who get a break early on. Some of them, you know, deserve it, and some of them probably don't. But that's the business. You gotta be able to live with that. Okay, somebody else.
Back before the first picture was even announced, we were here in Phoenix. You've always been just super nice to us. We appreciate that. And now that I know your wife's here, I'm almost afraid to ask this question. But the guy has said some awful nice things about you on the Bob and Tom radio show. What is Jimmy Pardo really like?
Well, he's a great guy. Jimmy Pardo's my son-in-law. He's married to my daughter, Danielle Koenig, who's currently writing Disney cartoons, a new Disney cartoon for the studio. He's a very nice guy. He's very pleasant. He's you know, that whole thing when he kind of, you know, takes on the audience and gets smart out of it. That's all an act. I'm very pleased that he's in the family.
Thank you.
Well, certainly no one can compare to the original cast of Star Trek. But I wanted to know, in your view, what is the greatest legacy to the entire genre of sci-fi for the original series and cast?
Legacy for the public or legacy for them or for you?
Legacy to the public, or maybe to the cast as well.
Well, you know, I think that probably has changed a little bit. We're in another decade, and we're looking for different things on the screen. We're looking for eye candy. You know, we're looking for action. We're looking for spectacular effects. And sometimes, as a consequence, the story suffers a bit in terms of the message. You know, not all of our films, not all of our episodes carried a profound socio-political message, but a lot of them did. And I was always very proud of that. I always felt that very pleased to be associated with that. So to ask today's audience, the young people who are making this, I think the first weekend, this movie, $70 million weekend, they'll probably answer it in a different way, They'll talk about the excitement and the adventure, and not emphasize the things. We emphasize those things, the philosophical things. So we didn't have the worries, we didn't have the equipment, we didn't have the wherewithal to make it visually spectacular. So we relied on telling good stories, and I think that's maybe that's ultimately what we'll be known for. The Star Trek, original Star Trek series and films told good stories. Stories that were emotionally provocative or involving, that intellectually stimulating.
Great, thank you.
Every actor I know says that you never play a villain as a villain. So I'd like to hear what makes Bester a hero. What makes him a good guy? What's his vision for a better world? And the second part of my question is, if you ever read the Psychor trilogy, do you feel like they captured your heroic Bester in that?
Let me answer the second part first. I read the first one. Bester is born on the last page, so there's not much of Bester in that, The second one was very episodic. It felt like 3 television episodes put together. And it was okay. The third one I thought was really interesting. It made it a little bit more vicious than I had intended. But it was really well done. It was an absorbing story, and I had a great time reading it. Now what was the first part?
What makes Bester a hero?
Well,
what's his real motivation?
Well, I think his loyalty to his people. Anybody who stands up, for a group, it's loyalty in a way not to destroy the world or the universe, but to make it more palpable for his people. Now, whether you think these people are good or bad, it is a righteous idea, a righteous motivation. So I think that's what it is. And I can relate to that. So to me, that's how I feel.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Walter.
Hi.
As Bester, working on Babylon 5, you had a lot of really amazing actors around you. Some of them you got to work with, some of them you didn't. As Bester, was there any character that you wished you had gotten to interact with but didn't?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sure. Well, I think it would have been fun interacting with Peter and Andreas. Yeah. In fact, all of the folks. As you say, they're good actors, and I'm thinking that if I was interacting with them, it would have been a scene that had its own identity. Because why would Bester be working with these folks unless it was something unusual? That there's lots of reasons for him to interact with Bruce. There's all that conflict going on with Jerry Doyle. But the other actors, it would have been fun.
All right, thank you.
I was actually wondering if you might be able to talk a little bit about Star Trek Renegades and the work on with Russ. What your role is with that.
Well, I'm read the script, and I understand that this has been a pretty significant overhaul since I read it. It's too long, so they had to cut out. And one of the things that they cut out, one of the things that I was not particularly fond of was all the fight scenes. It seemed like the script was geared to attract young people who want to see crashes and fights and things like that, and relying on that more than on story. Now I understand they deleted 6 fight scenes from the movie, so that I think that would help just on that basis. I think it's a kind of an interesting story. Chekov is the head of the Federation or something. He's 140 years old. And he's trying to keep the peace, and he knows that there's an insurrection going on, and he's trying to keep things together with Tim's character. What's his name? Yeah. So, and then there are bad people, they're kind of colorful. So I think if people start comparing it with this, it's going to have a very tough time with all the effects. They're obviously trying to do more effects than Renegades than they had in the past, but this movie is going to take into the darkness a lot of expertise and genius to upstage that.
Thank you. You have a new graphic novel, but do you have any plans for the future, any other future endeavors? Anything you'd like to check off your list?
For anyone who didn't get that groan-inducing pun, the question is, do you have anything to check off your list?
I'm in an advanced age, and it's hard to think too far into the future. Particularly if you have a Russian soul, and you feel that the world's going to come to an end. So I literally try to take one step at a time, see what today brings. Whether today will give me an idea that I can start working on tomorrow. It's hard for me to project into the future. It's hard for me to make long-term plans. So right now, I'm sort of at sea. I don't know really what I'm going to do next. And I really need to get started on something. Because when you get older, and I'm sure it's true for younger people too, work can't be the happiest thing you have at your disposal. You just sit around and wait for something to happen, and you feel sorry for yourself. You see the clock is ticking. That's very debilitating, and it could actually, I'm sure, it could result in an early demise. So, working. I have to find something that I can do, that I can involve myself in. That I can, I can look forward to each day to doing. I've done a couple of short, films, one called Handball, which ran about 7 minutes, and it's on YouTube. And then Judy and I were in a very short film called Flashback, made by a very, very competent director. That's also on YouTube. So I'm open to doing things even at that scale, as long as they're interesting, as long as I can, I can get involved in it. Oh, by the way, I'm doing another one right now called Cowboys and Engines. And it's one of those.
Steampunk?
Yeah, what is it?
Steampunk.
Steampunk.
Steampunk. Steampunk. It's one of those.
All right. Considering the fact that you don't naturally
speak with a Russian accent. Did you ever get any kind of backlash or critiques or criticism from the accent that you used on Star Trek?
Curious, when I was doing the television series, not so much. You know, once in a while I'd get a student, a student would be, a language student would be in the audience, was taking Russian, and it was generally a young woman for some reason, and she would say, you know, your accent is off because there's no W in the Russian language, and you keep using that. And the answer to that is, people, I think the answer is that people who speak Russian, try to speak English, get a little confused with the V and the W, inadvertently. That's what my father did. My father did the exact same thing when he talked to us. Please pass the vegetables, you know, that's what he was. So I took my cue from that. Although I did have one experience that was funny in retrospect. I was at a convention, 2 or 3 young women came up to me and said, we just want to tell you how much we love your accent. It's so wonderful. I said, okay, if you don't like the accent, I get the picture. You don't have to be funny. And the other reason is that he said, what are you talking about? We're from Soviet Union.
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you very much for Star Trek, Gods and Men, and for Star Trek Renegades. Those are Star Trek as it was meant to be.
I don't think there's room for more than one interpretation of Star Trek. After all, this is another decade. It is 40 years later. The way we make movies changes, you know. The emphasis is on special effects and the adventure. As I said before, if we had those CGI effects available to us, I'm sure we would have been tempted to rely on them more. So I don't think anybody should, out of hand, you know, conclude that this Star Trek isn't as good or isn't as consistent or what's the word?
Legitimate?
No. Starts with a C.
Canon?
Yes. This is the canon that our stuff was. Just accept it for what it is and enjoy what you can get out of it. And remember the good old days and you know, have that as part of your memory and your fondness of Star Trek. But give yourself the opportunity to enjoy the good stuff too. Well, Galaxy Quest was great fun. And some of it was so painful. You were sitting there signing autographs. Oh, God, that brings back memories. I didn't bring back memories of yesterday. I thought it was ingeniously plotted. I thought everybody did a terrific job. They gave me just a touch of Star Trek. I mean, Rita had a shirt off several times. And the guy was, I can't remember, the Englishman. Yeah, his grumpiness, you know, that is something that we've all weathered and had to deal with. So, yeah, I thought that was good. What other movie were you talking about?
Mostly the Galaxy Quest and the other ones that just kind of make a little bit of post Galaxy.
Yeah, it was fun. I had a great time.
Two quick questions. First, which is your favorite scene as Bester?
Okay.
And the second one is, you recently did that Star Trek Phase 2, Serve All My Days, where you apparently died.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, reprising the role for that?
Okay. How much time do we have now?
We got about 5 minutes or so.
Okay. My favorite scene is best. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Probably the scene with Jerry in the train.
Yes.
Yeah. And what do I think of the episode of
The Phase 2, the web series?
Yeah. Well, you know, those folks came to me and said, would you be willing to partake in this? I said, well, we can come up with a story that I'd like to tell, something that we haven't done yet. And I actually had a friend in England who said, what about the Dabney years? What about doing a sequel? That is the word. What if we do a sequel to Dabney years? And I thought, yeah, that's a good idea. I thought it was a good idea because it would give us more of an involvement in more of more insight into what Chekov was. Because I said, generally it was, you know, instead of the navigator's position and said, Captain, there's something strange out there. What do you think it is? And then he comes. Take it away, bro. It's so exciting. So yeah, this is a chance, you know, to go through the 5 steps of dying, you know. Denial, anger, denial, coming to some kind of grips, you know, with it, acceptance. And we put all of that in. And I thought, well, we now have an idea of, I did at least have an idea of what this character is about. And so I felt a considerable amount of satisfaction having the opportunity to do that.
I think we have time for one more.
I want to congratulate you on your star.
Oh, thank you.
If there is a role that you would like to play, Babylon 5, Trek, or anything, what would it be? What would be the dream role that you would have liked to have played?
I don't know.
You're just happy with it?
Where I did it?
Wait, with all the thoughts you had, are you happy with those? Or?
No, I would have loved to done one more things. Obviously, you know, my wife gets very upset when I talk about this particular instance, but they were doing, this was about 8-10 years ago, and they were doing a 2-part movie a week called Helter Skelter. And it was about Charles Manson and his followers. And they couldn't find anybody in Los Angeles to play the part. And then I came in, and I did a couple of things that they told me not to do. They told me not to try to imitate his accent, and not to and not, I don't know, something else. And I did just the opposite. I came in, and the director, who, you know, really didn't see me in the part to begin with, but because a couple of casting directors had come to my defense and that they should hear me read, he said, okay, come back and read. And I said, can I take a minute? I was in the room with him. And he said, sure. He started to write something, you know, to himself. And while he was writing, I started talking. So the first impression he got was of my voice. And I'd done a pretty good job of imitating Charles Manson. So he was a little spooked. And he looked up and said, my God, that's Charles Manson. That's Charles Manson. And I thought, and he said, just hold on, let me see what I can do about this. Let me see what I can do about this. So I left, and I really was on cloud nine. I thought, wow, this is an opportunity to do something that's really substantial, to get away from Star Trek. And certainly, at least, give me the opportunity to carve a different kind of career. And, well, as most of you must know, I didn't get it. A director named Elia Kazan in New York, who's one of our most preeminent directors, who directed Street Party and Desire, and he directed what?
Face of the Crowd.
Yeah, Face of the Crowd, and several other really important movies. He knew this kid Steve Railsback, and he wrote a note on Steve Railsback's behalf, and as a favorite kid. It was the end of the story. I would have loved to have done that. I would have loved to see if I had the chops to really carry it off. My wife was concerned because people involved in the production were getting threatening letters. We're going to attack your throat, So she wasn't very pleased about my involvement. We should end on that note. So let me tell a story I told you, but it should be a happy note. 8 or 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, maybe 15, God almighty. It's a long time ago. I had an operation on my knee. And the doctor told me, it's going to be a snap. It was going to be arthroscopic surgery, not very invasive. I'd be up on my feet in 24 hours, and I'd only be under for about 30 minutes. So I went into the operating room thinking that this was a situation and feeling fairly relaxed and okay with it. And as a matter of fact, it was much more difficult than expected. It was a 2-hour operation. When I didn't get back on my feet, I was on crutches for about 6 or 7 weeks. Now, in the operating room was an anesthetist. He was a big Star Trek fan. So, as the anesthesia is wearing off, and you need to be aware of the world coming out of dreamland, the first thing I hear is, I got a wee bit of bad news for you.
Autographs at S5 at 1:30 this afternoon.